You get to see my little background screen Minecraft bee, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do one of the bits that I want to do. A few months ago, someone came into my stream chat, and after watching for a bit, they asked me if I was autistic. And I don't know. I didn't take it as an insult, mind you, but I don't know. I've never been tested. I've never done like an official screening. But I figured, hey, you know, I'll give them the obvious disclaimers of, you know, online tests are not accurate screenings necessarily, but they're a good place to get started. You know, don't take them as like, if you get a high score on one of those tests like the RADS are or something, don't take that as, you know, as gospel. Like, no, you definitely means you are autistic, but it might be worth, you know, looking into getting an official screening. And I talked about that on stream, and then it went nowhere. But in the back of my mind, I was still sitting there thinking, well, maybe I could make a video out of something like that, you know, just taking the RADS-R test. And so I figured, hey, let me do that. But kind of unrelated between then and now, someone asked me if I was German. And well, there's a perfect test for both of those. Am I German or autistic? Both involve systematic thinking, a preference for precision, and difficulty pretending small talk is acceptable. The question is, which one explains it? 15 questions, 2 minutes, 1 uncomfortable truth. I'm going to take the test to see if I am German or autistic. For what it's worth, as I said, I have never been tested or screened for autism, and I have never done a like 23andMe test or anything like that, so I don't know what my actual family history is. Don't really care. But let's begin. Punctuality is a basic moral obligation. To be late is to disrespect other people's times, which is to disrespect them. Not negotiable. I've already calculated the optimal departure time, accounting for 3 contingency scenarios. Generally important, but context dependent. And fine, but I don't understand why people get so worked up about it. I think I might be able to guess exactly where each one of these questions goes. I did not like test this before or anything. If it weren't for the 3 contingency scenarios, not negotiable is just how I feel about it. If you set up a time for something, be there on time. Plan to be there 10 minutes early. If catching traffic would make you 15 minutes late, well, leave 15 minutes early, and if you get there without traffic and you're 15 minutes early, congrats. Obviously, there are some exceptions, which, you know, you could say generally important, context dependent, because there are some exceptions. But I would still stick with non-negotiable because the context is like, got hit with a car on your way, which, I mean, that's not really a negotiation. That's just an accident, hopefully. You receive a new piece of equipment. You read the manual completely before touching anything. This is not optional. Read the manual in a specific order I've determined to be optimal after assessing the table of contents. Read the relevant section, or who reads manuals? So I definitely don't read the manual completely before touching anything. And I definitely do read manuals. I'm trying to think of like the most recent thing I picked up. It's not huge, but I actually recently got a new garden hose. And what did I do? I read the relevant sections. I didn't read everything about it, but I read how to install it. Turns out it's really easy to install a garden hose. Who would have guessed? You screw it on to the is it still called a tap? Point is, I read the relevant sections. Someone gives you unclear instructions. You ask for clarification until the instructions are unambiguous. Ambiguity is failure of the speaker. Follow the instructions as literally as possible and hold the person responsible for any unintended outcomes. Interpret them charitably and proceed, or become quietly distressed but say nothing. So I wouldn't say I necessarily ask for clarification, but I might say like what a couple times. I'll say what like once or twice, and if that doesn't work, become quietly distressed but say nothing is generally what ends up happening. If it's unclear instructions and they like give the instruction and then immediately walk away and I don't understand, then maybe I would follow instructions as literally as possible. But more generally, I would just smile, nod, and be like, uh-huh. And then hope that I can do what they want me to do. Small talk is a necessary social lubricant. I become proficient at it. I do not enjoy it. A social ritual whose purpose I understand, but whose execution I find bewildering. Fine, I'm normal about it. Or an insult to the possibility of real conversation. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I can answer this one. I don't really know what small talk is. Like, is talking, like, what's the difference between talking and small talk? I've never asked someone about the weather unless I honestly wanted to know what the weather was like. Like, I don't talk to people about, like, I'm not going to talk to someone if I don't care to talk to them. I guess that would mean it's an insult to the possibility of real conversation. I feel like, I guess maybe small talk is like something you do when you don't actually want to talk to someone, but you just need to talk. So I guess that'd be, yeah, insult to the possibility of real conversation. The most reasonable response to someone doing something inefficiently in front of you is politely explain the more efficient method. Explain it once. If they continue doing it wrong, that's their problem. I ain't reading the rest of those. They called me out. Your relationship to rules is best described as rules exist for reasons. When the reason no longer applies, the rule no longer applies. I decide when that is. Rules are rules. The rule is the rule regardless of the context. That's the point of rules. A rule is a rule unless the rule is wrong, in which case the rule must be argued against formally. I follow rules because social cooperation depends on it, not because I think they're inherently binding. Could also say rules exist for reasons. When the reason no longer applies, rule no longer applies. Actually, I think that more accurately describes it than because social cooperation depends on it. Because usually it's rules exist for reasons, the reason being social cooperation depends on it. Discover a better way to do something you've been doing wrong for 10 years. Update immediately and never do it the old way again. Update immediately and feel a genuine sense of relief that the world is now more correct. Update gradually because changing habits is hard. Or feel briefly ashamed about the 10 years, then update. Feel briefly ashamed about the 10 years, then update. How do you feel when someone interrupts your focus? Mildly annoyed, but I can return to it easily. Interruption costs me approximately 20 minutes of recovery time. I've done the calculations. Depends on whether the interruption was legitimate. Genuinely difficult to describe, like a physical sensation. Okay. When I'm focusing? Yeah, oh no. I'm trying to like put myself into a focus and then pretend someone's interrupting me. Kind of hard to do. But generally, like, if I'm focusing on something... Yeah, I think it depends on whether it's legitimate. But it's also difficult to describe. But I think that's more... like, generalized anxiety. Where it's less like the physical sensation is not because someone interrupted my focus. It's the possibility of their interrupting of my focus being... because they're actually trying to get my attention, and I would hate for that to happen. But if they're actually, like, interrupting, like, if they are intending to talk to me, then it depends on whether it's legitimate. When someone says, we should get coffee sometimes, you understand this to mean a genuine invitation requiring follow-up scheduling, a social nicety that means nothing, I do not follow up, neither do they, everyone is fine. I know it probably means nothing, but I'm not 100% sure and it bothers me. A vague positive sentiment that may or may not result in coffee. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you right now. This is the question that I saw screenshotted that got me to like find out about this quiz in the first place. So I saw a bunch of the discourse around it, and apparently when someone says we should get coffee sometimes, that is it is generally accepted to be the second one. But I always thought it was the first one. And now, after all that discourse, I'm definitely on the third one. Where I'm like, yeah, it probably means nothing, right? Because, like, everyone was agreeing that it means nothing. But I'm not 100% sure. Maybe someone actually wants coffee. And that bothers me. Your position on separating personal and professional matters is absolute. They do not mix. This is not negotiable. Strong preference for separation, but I understand the real world is messier. Find the boundary confusing and tend to be either too professional in personal settings or too personal in professional ones. Context dependent, I can navigate both. Probably pretty context dependent. I think it really depends. Yeah, it depends on the context. That's what context dependent means, I believe. But like not mixing that, it entirely depends on what your profession is. Which I feel like for most, like if you're working in retail, then I'd probably be like, oh, strong preference for separation, but the real world is messier. You're going to interact with your coworkers. When you're interacting with your coworkers, you might end up meeting them outside of work environment and something, end up chatting. The world is messier. But if you have a job that is more on like a personal standpoint, which I can't think of one right now, so maybe it's not context dependent. I'd say it's closer to strong preference for separation. If I could have, off the top of my head, come up with like a real, job where those two mix together nice, then I would have probably gone context dependent. But in reality, I think I do have a strong preference for separation. Work is work, personal life is personal life. Real world is messier, and sometimes you make friends with your coworkers. When you know a lot about something, you share relevant information when asked, don't volunteer unsolicited, that would be presumptuous. I have to consciously stop myself from saying everything I know about it. They keep calling me out. Inner monologue is orderly, think in sentences, the sentences are grammatically correct. Constant and somewhat overwhelming, involving simultaneous consideration of multiple possibilities. Normal, I think. I don't know what other people's are like. They need to stop reading my mind when it comes to the answers to these questions. Someone does not follow through on something they said they would do. You feel disappointment that is proportionate to the importance of the commitment. Judgment, you said you would do it, you did not do it. This is a character question. Confusion followed by distress because the gap between what they said and what happened feels like a fundamental problem. Or fine, people are unreliable, I'd already planned for this. So, I like to think that it's fine. Sometimes people can be unreliable or other things happen. I had already planned for this. And that's what I think about when I think of a situation like this. Like, oh, someone said they would do something, they didn't. That's fine. But then whenever it actually happens, I'm like, come on, you said you would do it, you didn't do it. Come on. But also, like, sometimes it's, I wouldn't say it's really confusion. Distress, but that's usually, again, I think that's more, less on the German autistic spectrum and more just like the general anxiety of like, well, they said they would do something, they didn't do it. I'm not really confused, but I am distressed. It's obvious that they hate me, right? Again, I don't think that's a German thing. Wouldn't know. Pretty sure I'm not German. Your approach to an interesting topic is best defined as read the best books, form a view, move on. Become extremely knowledgeable for a period of week or months, then possibly move on. Thorough and systematic, because understanding something halfway is worse than not understanding it all. Develop a sustained interest that remains active for years alongside other sustained interests. Extremely knowledgeable for a period of week or months, then possibly move on. The real problem with the world is people don't think things through properly before acting. In precision, in language, in thought, in action, everything else follows from this. People say one thing and do another, or rules without reason and reasons without the courage to follow them through to their conclusions. Well, I wouldn't say people don't think things through properly before acting. I feel like a lot of the problems in the world are not people thinking things, or are not people not thinking things through before acting. It's people thinking and then not caring about what the thought was. So it's like they thought and they were like, oh, this will end poorly for other people, and that's not me, so. But probably closest would be people say one thing and then do another. So here's the question. Am I German, autistic, both, or neither? I'm autistic and not necessarily German about it. 36% German, 51% autistic. Patterns here are neurological rather than cultural. At least that's the more... parsimonious. Took me way too long to read that explanation. Intensity of focus, difficulty with ambiguity and literal relation to what people say versus what they mean. I mean, to be fair, 51%. There's a reason Wittgenstein spent years trying to establish what language actually means when it appears to mean something. The reason that Tractatus ends with, whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. Some problems aren't solved, they're dissolved when you finally understand that what was confusing you. Capacity for systematic thought is not a disorder. The difficulty is that the world is not, in fact, systematic. Other people's behavior is governed by rules that are never written down and shift without announcement. This is more information than a 15-question quiz can establish. Take it as a direction, not a verdict. That's what I was saying at the beginning of this. These online tests with questions, hence the quests, They can be fun. They can give you a direction. They can give you a, understanding that there might be something to look more deeply into. But also, this one was, more jokey, German Autistic. And this is the real one. Sorry for the flashbang, by the way. I, despite having opened this not 15 minutes ago, forgot that it was white background. This is the RADS-R test. The RADS-R test, I believe, is 80 questions. It is much more comprehensive, and it does not try to determine if you are German. Does it determine if you're a poet? I wouldn't know it. That's like the most common rhyme when it comes to like when you accidentally rhyme, so don't give me any credit for that. But it's time to take the RADS-R test. This one is, this one is more, again, comprehensive. It has, it doesn't give you its pre-written answers. It's just how, is something true now and when you were young? Only true now? Only true when you were young? Or was it never true? Please read each statement below and choose the answer that best fits your experiences during social interactions. I am a sympathetic person. Nope. I can understand what people are going through. I can understand that it is bad. I don't think that's what sympathy means. Maybe I'm thinking of empathy. But like, it's just like, I don't feel anything about it. Never have. I can just like logically understand that, yeah, that's bad. And I understand why you would feel bad about that. I often use words and phrases from movies and televisions in conversation. True only now, because when I was young, I didn't really consciously consume movies and television. I did watch TV, I did watch movies, but I didn't, it was almost like background noise, but also background images. But it was kind of just like, hey, let's just sit down and not exist. I am often surprised when others tell me I have been rude. That was definitely true when I was young. But I honestly don't think I interact with too many people that would be willing to call me out on that enough to know if that's true now. So I'm not going to say true now. I will definitely say true when I was young. Might also be true now. But I don't know. Sometimes I talk too loudly or too softly, and I'm not aware of it. That was definitely true when I was young. Kind of similar to this one. I don't necessarily interact with enough people enough for them to, like, tell me that. Though I feel like, it's a smaller thing, but sometimes when I'm recording videos like this, I will notice that the audio is typically too soft, not too loud. But I will notice that the audio is, much quieter than I expected. So I guess I could say now and when I was young, but I feel like recording is a separate thing. I'm going to go on the just when I was younger. Often don't know how to act in social situations. Always. Please click. I can put myself in other people's shoes. Now, I explained that with the first one. No, I cannot. I have a hard time figuring out what some phrases mean, like you are the apple of my eye. That's another one where it's like, by definition, I know what that means, but I do not understand why. Like, if you had tried to, if I had to figure out what you are the apple of my eye meant without someone just telling me, never would have happened in the past, would not happen now. I only like to talk to people who share my special interests. That only like to talk to people who share my special interests. That was definitely true when I was young. Now I like hearing about all sorts of people who know all sorts of things. But when I was young, it was like, I am interested in a couple things. Math and Minecraft. And I grew out of math. You'd think if we were growing out of one of those two things, it would be the Minecraft. But now I love learning. I love learning about things that other people know that I know nothing about. Because it makes it really easy to think. It's kind of a bit dangerous because, you have to still critically think about it. But someone else knows a lot about something. I don't know much about it. I love talking to them about it because I don't have to do a ton of thinking because they already know all that stuff. I don't have to try to think about how to describe things to them. I focus on details rather than overall idea. Yes. That is something that has come up significantly more especially now. But I mean, even when I was younger than 16 and now, but now with art, I do a lot of art. And you'll never see much of it, but you might see some of it every once in a while. But rather than actually making a thing, I'm like, oh, well, here's a detail that I want in this thing. And I try and work out from there. Sometimes it works. I always notice how food feels in my mouth. This is more important to me than how it tastes. More important. Yes. I was going to say no, because I was like, well, if something tastes really bad, it doesn't matter if it feels really good in my mouth. But the opposite is extremely true. Oatmeal tastes so good, but it feels so bad in my mouth that I refuse to eat it. So I don't think a good texture can overcome a bad taste, but a good taste definitely can't overcome a bad texture. I missed my best friends and family, or best friends or family when we were apart for a long time. This one's a bit odd, because I would say no. But then when I like meet up with them again, it suddenly feels like I was missing them. Like I don't feel any different at all. For example, when I went to I spent 2 years in university, and I've got nothing to show for it. But after the first year, I was like chilling. I was like, fine. I'm like, this is fine. I don't like really miss my family or friends at all. And then as soon as I went home for like summer break, I was like, oh, these are like the best people ever. My opinions have changed somewhat. Political differences, to say the least. But I don't feel like I'm missing them. But then when we meet up again, I'm like, this is like it suddenly feels like I was missing them, but I don't feel it until I meet up with them again, which I feel like means I don't miss them. It just means that I like to see them. I'm going to go never true on that, because it was the same thing when I was younger and older. Sometimes I offend others by saying what I am thinking, even if I don't mean to. I've learned to keep my mouth shut as an adult, so I don't think that happens too much. But as a kid, I had not learned that yet, and I would definitely offend other people by saying what I was thinking, and quite often not even thinking what I was saying. I only like to think and talk about a few things that interest me. Yes, true when I was under 16, not anymore. When I was under 16, like I said, Minecraft and math. Loved Minecraft and math. If you wanted to know any Minecraft crafting recipe, I could tell you what it was. And now, that was like one of the few things that interest me. Not the case anymore. Now I like to think and talk about things that, maybe not think about things that don't really interest me that much. Like I'm alone, why would I bother doing that? But talk about things that don't really interest me that much with someone who they do, like two people. Like if I'm talking about something I don't care about, like sports, with someone else who doesn't care about sports, I'm like, what's the point? But if they really care about sports, like tell me about that. Like who's the best modern baseball player? What are all their stats? I love to know that stuff. But if you don't care and I don't care, why are we talking about it? I'd rather go out to eat in a restaurant by myself than with someone I know. No. I do not like going into public places by myself unless absolutely necessary. I cannot imagine what it would be like to be someone else. Yep. I've been told that I'm clumsy or uncoordinated. Not really. I've been told that I'm uncoordinated now. But I've never been told that I was clumsy. I don't think I was ever told that I was uncoordinated as a kid. But I have been told that I was uncoordinated now. Probably the getting hit in the head for the last 2 years of high school way too much. Or it's not like anything evil. Well, it was lacrosse for what it's worth. Others consider me odd or different. Definitely true when I was young. I feel like that's one of those things where it's like, if I went out into public, yes. Like, if I went out into public super often, as I am, that people probably would, but I don't know. Most of the people that I, like, interact with on a daily basis that would be willing to consider me odd or different are online in groups that share interests with me. So they won't consider it odd to be interested in something. Definitely true when I was younger, and probably true now if I went out and interacted with the public at large in, you know, like just casual social situations, but I don't know. I'm not going to click that. I understand when friends need to be comforted. True only now, never did as a kid, and I still don't know how to as an adult. But I understand, I'm like, I should be doing something to comfort you now. Fuck if I know what to do, so I'll usually ask. I am very sensitive to the way my clothes feel when I touch them. How they feel is more important than how they look. Yes. Yeah, I have this sweatshirt that I love. I wonder if I can see it right there. But I'm not going to stand up and go get it. Absolutely love it. It is one of the most comfortable sweatshirts ever, as long as it's not directly touching my skin. Or sorry, as long as it's not directly touching my torso. Touching my arms is fine. But I have to wear like a sweatshirt with like a higher collar. Or not a sweatshirt, an undershirt rather. With a higher collar than that sweatshirt. Because if it touches like my collarbone or my neck or my, like if I'm not wearing a shirt but I put that on, it's bad. It's evil. Not evil, but it's bad. I like to copy the way certain people speak and act. It helps me appear more normal. So I don't know if I necessarily like to do that. And I don't know if I'm doing it because it helps me to appear more normal, but I definitely do it. I definitely will copy the way that people speak and act. And I guess I don't dislike it. But because it helps me to appear more normal, I don't think I ever did that as a kid. I think I do that now, kinda. As a kid, I don't think I ever did that. It can be very intimidating for me to talk to more than one person at the same time. Yes, as long as you don't consider Twitch chat people. I don't. I have to act normal to please other people and make them like me. Here. Meeting new people is usually easy for me. No. I get highly confused when someone interrupts me when I am talking about something I am interested in. I get highly confused when someone interrupts. I guess it depends on what your definition of confused is. I don't think that was the case when I was... To be fair, I have horrendous memory of everything like pre-2020. I wonder if anything happened in that year that could explain that. But I get like, I wouldn't say confused, but upset. I get like unreasonably upset for a little bit. I don't think I did as a kid though. No, I definitely did as a kid. Who am I kidding? It is difficult for me to understand how other people are feeling when we are talking. Yeah, if they're not directly telling me how they're feeling, I have no idea. I can make like some guesses, but like smoking weed outside of my window. But I think like I did that behind the eyes test once, and I think I like guessed my way into like a 30% or something like that, because them eyes were not showing off. Like every single one of them was like a 50-50 or completely random. There were maybe 2 or 3 where I was like, oh, that person's clearly sad. I don't even know if I got it right. I like having conversation with several people, for instance, around a dinner table, at school, or at work. No. No. Take things too literally, so I often miss what people are trying to say. 2 weeks ago was when I learned that the like honk if you like pizza stickers were not jokes to get people to honk at you. Like, it wasn't like, oh, if you hear someone honking at you, that means they saw your bumper sticker and like pizza. It's a, if you're driving poorly and someone's honking at you, you're just like, ah, it's because they like pizza. Like, I did not know that it was that second one. Always thought it was the first one. Like, well, you know, you like pizza, you're gonna honk. It's an I think you should leave sketch. It is very difficult for me to understand when someone is embarrassed or jealous. Yeah. Jealous, yeah. Embarrassed. Embarrassed is usually like that one's kind of typically pretty easy to tell, right? I guess it depends. No. I think it's easy to tell if someone's embarrassed if you're talking about their past. But if they're embarrassed because I'm just like talking about something that I did, could never tell. And jealous could never tell. And usually the way it's easy to tell if someone's embarrassed when you're talking about something that they did is because they'll be like, oh, stop. They'll tell you to stop, usually. Some ordinary textures that do not bother others feel very offensive when they touch my skin. Yeah! That's the sweatshirt thing, right? Like, I don't know if other people would find that, like, if it would bother them or not, because I'm not other people. It might. But I would think so. I'd imagine that, like I'm fine with, like, velvet. To be fair, I don't think I've actually ever felt velvet, so maybe I'm not fine with velvet. But, unless, is velvet that stuff, I'm not thinking of sequins, don't think I'm thinking of sequins, but that stuff that, like, when you rub your hand over it one way, it, like, kind of changes, like, not changes color, but, like, it just changes the way the light reflects off of it. Because whatever that stuff is, I hate that. I like smoothing it out, because then it looks smooth and uniform, but I hate touching it. I get extremely upset when the way I like to do things is suddenly changed. Yeah. Way more when I was a kid, like when I was young, than now, but still now as well. I've never wanted or needed to have what other people call an intimate... True when I was younger. Well, what depends? What do you mean by intimate, actually? Like, what would you consider an intimate relationship? I'm not gonna get into, like, sexual identity and stuff in this video, but depending on what you mean, that might be a true always. But I truly never felt the need to have any form of relationship at all. Definitely not intimate with other people. But I guess, yeah, like, depending on how intimate you mean, that might also be true now. But it was definitely true when I was young. Difficult for me to start and stop a conversation. I need to keep going until I am finished. Definitely true now. I feel like I would constantly just, like, leave conversations when I was young. But once you start a conversation, like, if I start talking now, as long as I can think of the end of the sentence has got to end. I was gonna say once I start talking, I gotta finish the sentence, but I mean, saying once I start talking, I gotta finish the sentence, but saying it as once I like, clearly not. But once I've, like, finished processing the thought and I know what I'm gonna say, especially if it's part of a conversation, I gotta finish that. And, like, I have conversations planned out. This might come up later. But I try and plan out conversations, and then the conversations just never happen. Not they don't happen the way that I think they're gonna happen. They just don't happen. I speak with a normal rhythm. You tell me. You tell me. Do I? I stutter. I have a stutter. Might be because of like, anxiety. Might be because of my fucked up teeth. As, like, a way to stop biting my tongue. I don't know. I don't know how stutters happen. But I know that when I talk normally sometimes, my tongue feels, like, really in my mouth. I speak with a normal rhythm. The rhythm I speak with is my normal rhythm, so I'm going to say, yeah, I speak with a normal rhythm. No one's ever told me I speak abnormally. You can tell me if you think I speak abnormally. The same sound, color, or texture can suddenly change from very sensitive to very dull. I don't think so. Sound, yes. Texture, yes. Color, no. And not at all. True only now, even though it's only 2 out of 3. I've heard 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but that's 67%. That's not great either. The phrase, I've got you under my skin. I've never heard that phrase before. But it makes me uncomfortable? Not really. I don't think it ever did. Sometimes the sound of a word or a high-pitched noise can be painful to my ears. Definitely now. I don't know if that was the case when I was younger. An understanding type of person? I try to be, but let's be honest. I do not connect with characters in movies and cannot feel what they feel. Yes. I cannot tell when someone is flirting with me. I can see in my mind the exact detail, or I can see in my mind in exact detail things that I am interested in. No. Nope. Kind of like that thing of like trying to picture things. Not detailed at all. Keep a list of things that interest me, even when they have no practical use. For example, sports statistics, train schedules, calendar dates, historical facts, and dates. Keep a list of things that interest me. I don't think I ever did this when I was younger. I feel like most of the time that I do that now, it has practical use. 1 second, I looked ahead to the next one. But to me, it all has practical use. Worst case scenario, the practical use is that it's entertaining. But, like, the price of certain items in Path of Exile, League by League, probably isn't actually practical. I don't know if I ever did that as a kid. Definitely do now, but I don't know if I did as a kid. I like to talk things over with my friends. Yeah. I cannot tell if someone is interested or bored with what I was saying. Yep, I'm just gonna talk. It can be hard to read someone's face, hand, and body movements when they are talking. Yeah. I was gonna say true only now, but I think that might have been the case when I was young as well. The same thing, like clothes or temperature, can feel very different to me at different times. Yeah, that's just... Yeah, isn't that the case for... Definitely true now. I don't know about younger. But isn't that, like, just always the case? Like, isn't that just how things work? I mean, not necessarily clothes. Temperatures, definitely. Clothes can feel very different depending on different times, but... I think that's just how temperatures work. 60 degrees at night is just warmer. Fahrenheit, by the way. I'm not trying to die yet by heat stroke, or I guess that wouldn't even be heat stroke. That would just be like boiling alive. I guess no, because boiling 60 degrees Celsius isn't boiling yet. Anyway, but like a nice, like, you know, like 60 to 70. That's a pretty wide range, granted, but degrees at night is way warmer than 60 or 70 degrees during the day, even though it feels colder. Like, because you're like, oh, outside, it's cold. Like, oh, not outside, it's cold. But you're like, oh, dark, it's cold. But, like, if it feels exactly 70, the issue is that you almost never do feel. Like, in one day, you'll almost never feel a 70-degree noon and, like, 9 p.m. I don't think that was true when I was a kid. But again, I don't remember much from pre-2020. I feel very comfortable with dating or being in social situations with others. Nope. Try to be as helpful as I can when other people tell me their personal problems. I try my darndest. As a kid, I did not care in the slightest. I have been told that I have an unusual voice. For example, flat, monotone, childish, or high-pitched. True when I was young. I had a very high-pitched voice when I was young. Recently, I've actually been told I have a nice voice by like 2 or 3 different people. I say recently, over the past like 6 months, which is nice to hear. It makes sense. I've been talking a lot more, which means I've kind of been working on talking. Sometimes a thought or subject gets stuck in my mind and I have to talk about it even if no one is interested. One of the few things I remember doing as a kid. I know I said I was mostly interested in Minecraft and math, the 2 M's of childhood. But when Mario Kart DS first came out, you best believe people who had never heard the word Nintendo in their life were hearing about how to race around Rainbow Road. I think it was Mario Kart DS. It was definitely Rainbow Road. I do certain things with my hands over and over again, like flapping, twirling sticks, or strings waving thing by my eyes. I'm a big fan of like spinning things between my fingers and balancing sticks on my hands. That's really fun. Whenever there's fun lighting, like if you have fluorescent lights, you can like wave your hand in front of it and it looks kind of choppy. That's fun. I'll often just like rub my fingertips or tap my fingertips more often than rubbing them, but sometimes it's like I'll rub them a little bit. Speaking of, that's not a story for this one. It's unrelated to this, so I'll tell it later. By later, I mean like in a different video. If I ever make a knife video, though, no, I've got a fun story. I've never been interested in what most people I know consider interesting. When I was young, yeah. I'm considered a compassionate type of person. Now, I've been working on that. Again, as a kid, didn't care. Now, again, I'm not great at like comforting people, but I at least like generally know how to, and can often tell when people need to be comforted. If they're crying, if they're just like visually distressed in the face, hard to tell. I get along with other people by following a specific set of rules. That's not what that says. That says a set of specific rules that help me look normal. I don't think so. Very difficult for me to work and function in groups. Yeah, when I was younger. I've gotten better at it. A lot of the stuff I've like learned just how to do good stuff. When I'm talking to someone, it is hard to change the subject. If the other person does so, I can get very upset and confused. I don't know if that was the case when I was young. And this can is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because sometimes it's like fine. If I was like you know, if I was super interested in the first topic and like the change comes out of nowhere, then yeah. But that's why I'm glad that word can is there. And again, I don't remember if when I was a kid that was the case. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't remember. Sometimes I have to cover my ears to block out painful noises, like vacuum cleaners or people talking too much or too loudly. Don't know if I had to do that as a kid. That happens quite often. I can chat and make small talk with people. I can. Do I like to? No, but I can. Apparently that makes me 36% German. 36% German. Had to make sure I got the percent right on that. Sometimes things that should feel painful are not. For instance, when I hurt myself or burn my hands on the stove. Yeah. When talking to someone, I have a hard time telling when it is my turn to talk or to listen. Yeah. Definitely now, and I'm pretty sure when I was younger as well. Quite often I would sit in like group conversations that I was forced into. Just kind of exist unless someone directly asked me. I'm considered a loner by those who know me best. Yep. I usually speak in a normal tone. That's another one that, like, to me, it's normal. Yeah. To me, the tone is normal. That's another one where it's like, you can tell me. I like things to be exactly the same day after day, and even small changes in my routines upset me. True now. As a kid, I don't think I cared at all. How to make friends and socialize is a mystery to me. Definitely true now. I mean, when I was young, I was, like, in school. You kind of like, you were kind of forced to socialize. So like it wasn't a mystery. It was difficult, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a mystery. Like the mystery was, oh, who am I going to socialize with? Oh, the people that I was assigned to a group with. It calms me to spin around or to rock in a chair when I'm feeling stressed. Yep, I don't think I ever did that as a kid. The phrase, he wears his heart on his sleeve, does not make sense to me. That's very similar to the apple of my eye. I understand what it means. Like, logically, I understand what it means. But it doesn't make sense. Like bearing your heart, that one makes sense. But wearing it on your sleeve? No. If I am in a place where there are many smells, textures to feel, noises, or bright lights, I feel anxious or frightened. That's another one where I don't remember when I was younger, so I'm not going to check it off, but that's definitely true now. I can tell when someone says one thing but means something else. No. Please just use your words properly. I like to be by myself as much as I can. Yes. I like to keep my thoughts stacked in my memory like they're on filing cards, and I pick out the ones I need by looking through the stack and finding the right one, or another unique way. No, I'm lucky if I can find the same thought twice in a row. Same sound sometimes seems very loud or very soft, even though I know it has not changed. Yes. I enjoy spending time eating and talking with my family and friends. Yep, didn't really care as a kid, but we can cross that out. But that one's nice. I can't tolerate things I dislike. Definitely when I was younger. Now I've learned to tolerate them. I still prefer not to if I don't have to. I don't like to be hugged or held. Fuck no, I love being hugged. I used to pretend to not, because I was like, I'm like the loner. I don't like people, but no, I love hugs. Hugs are fucking amazing. I have a weighted blanket. I think it's so nice. It's not the same as being hugged. But like one time, this is how I found out I needed a weighted blanket, or not needed, but would benefit greatly from one. I was on like a school field trip, and I was sitting on the inside bus seat on the way back, and the kid who was sitting next to me, he like leaned back and like he was like sitting, looking out into the aisle and like leaned back on me. And I was like, oh my god, this feels so fucking comfortable. I got a weighted blanket, and it like immediately and drastically improved the quality of my sleep. When I go somewhere, I have to follow a familiar route, or I can get very confused and upset. Yes. The amount of times I get lost if I take like one step in the wrong direction in a building I've been in 1,000 times. Maybe not 1,000, but at least a couple hundred. It is difficult to figure out what other people expect of me. I like to have close friends. I don't think I really cared too much as a kid, but now I do. People tell me that I give too much detail. I'm people. I don't think that happened when I was a kid. Often told that I asked embarrassing questions? No, no one tells me that. I tend to point out other people's mistakes. In my head, I don't actually... And sometimes out loud. What's my score? 161. Is that a good? Is that good? Is it possible to score good, like score well on an autism test? What does this score mean? Have a look at the section below, or go back to the scoring section. All scores of 65... Oh. Huh. That might be something worth taking a deeper look into, eh? Huh. Again, you know, I said this disclaimer at the beginning, I said it at the end of the first test. No single test is conclusive. Not every autistic person necessarily scores above the threshold in each test. If you score low, but still think you could be autistic, try taking a few other tests. Below you can see which statements of the RADs are belong to which of the subs... Oh, this is just be all 80, and it said, okay, yeah. Recommended next steps. After the RADs are, consider taking one of the... This one's unrelated, but y'all want to see if I'm a picky eater? I'm just going to throw this in at the end here. The food disgust test from IDR Labs. Apparently, it turns out I might be on the spectrum. And the other one, by the way, this is a little bit of a joke, but I have got in trouble for saying this, but among good friends who are also part of the LGBT community, I love saying that we're on the spectrum. The LGBT spectrum, of course. And then it turns out, well, you know, as it turns out, who could have seen that coming? Maybe when I didn't say any words until I was like 4 years old, it was something to look into there. Anyway, food disgust test. My mouth waters when I see a whole pig on a skewer. No, not at all, actually. Whenever I see stuff like that, I'm like, that's gross. The one that sticks into my head is the Hunger Games. Dislike that. I will not eat marmalade from which mold has been removed from the surface. I'm looking up what marmalade is. Marmalade, citrus-based fruit preserve. That's soft. I will not eat marmalade. Yes, I do not. Anything that is any food that is soft, I do not eat it if there has been mold on it. I am not picky when it comes to different kinds of seafood. Yeah, I love seafood. I'm a big fan of like shrimps. Like fish, I love fish. Crab. All those little things that I forget the name of, but I really like them. I do not mind eating a salad that is not crispy anymore. That's not like a hard agree, but I don't like I'd much prefer a crispy salad. But like soft lettuce isn't really like a texture I dislike that much. Soft oatmeal, we've been over this. I would not eat in a restaurant where I had seen bugs in the restroom. So this is another one that's like a food disgust anxiety thing. I would never eat again at a restaurant I had seen bugs in the restroom. Like if I walk into the bathroom, there's a cockroach, I'm not gonna like walk out. Like I'll probably finish my meal. If they haven't even taken my order yet, I might be like, ooh, there's bugs in the bathroom, let's get out. But if they've even taken the order, I'm like, okay, I'll finish this meal, but I'm not going back. So I would not eat. I'm not going to put it at hard agree, but one step agree. I do not eat potatoes or carrots whose skin has shrunk a bit from aging. I mean, if they're cooked, who cares? I do not drink from the same glass someone has already drunk from. I'm going to leave that as... I'm going to put that at light disagree. Actually, I was going to say I was going to leave it at middle. It's if they're family. Like, if they're family, or if they're, like, clearly visibly sick, then I won't do that. But otherwise, I don't care. Cannot stand the smell of fish shops. A little fishy, but I think that's one of those ones where it's like the smell's fine because I know how it tastes. Feel uncomfortable when I see raw meat. Nope. Is gross to eat raw fish like sushi. I'm not a huge fan of it. I know I mentioned fish, but mostly like cooked fish. I'm not a huge fan of sushi. I've had sushi maybe 0 times. No, I've had it once, and it was not great. Taste was fine, but the raw fish, I think it was salmon, was slimy, and slimy similar to like the goopy oatmeal. That's one of them bad textures. It is gross if a chef in a restaurant tastes a soup with a spoon without washing it every time he does so. I think that entirely depends on the quality of the restaurant. Like, random, like, gas station, not gas station restaurant, but gas station quality restaurant, agree. Any normal restaurant, disagree. Light disagree. I throw overripe fruit away. No, if it starts to mold, yeah, but if it's just like a banana that's turning brown, that's what I'll eat that. An apple that's getting a little soft. You know, again, mold, no, but just overripe, that's fine. Dirty silverware or stains on utensils disgust me. It doesn't disgust me, but I'll wash it. If it's in a restaurant, I might be like, hey, could we get some clean stuff? But I'm not gonna be like, ugh. I'm not gonna like, it's not like gross. It's, maybe I'll leave that one at the middle actually then, rather than moving it down to disagree. Seeing hair in my soup does not really bother me. No. Hair in my soup is a big no. especially now that I've got too much testosterone and gone bald, unfortunately. I would not eat part of an apple that had a worm in another part. Not as long as I can, like, cut off the part that the worm was in. That's fine. Feel disgusted when I chew on... Oh, yeah. When I chew on irregular bits of animal meat. Oh, yeah. Gross. Gross. I would not mind eating an apple that had a caterpillar crawl over its peel. Yeah, of course. Of course I wouldn't mind. It crawled over it, you know. You rinse off apple. Easy. Do not mind if a slice of apple has turned slightly brown from being exposed to air. Do not mind if a slice of apple has been turned slightly brown. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I prefer if it hasn't, but so maybe I'll take it down one. I definitely prefer it, but I feel suspicious if a friend has handled or touched something I am about to eat. I mean, it says friend, so I'm going to assume it means actual friend, in which case, nah, that's fine. I would never eat those new snacks and dishes that are made from bugs. That is an agree for a... So I'm like bug vegan, if that makes sense. Because, like, if it's just, like... Which I guess... I feel like most of those bug snacks... Maybe I'll put that in the middle, then. Most... I say vegan, but also vegetarian would probably be better accurate for the bug thing. Because I do eat meat. I mentioned that, obviously, but... I wouldn't want... like factory farmed bugs to be turned into snacks. I like bugs way too much for that. But if it's your typical, like, you know, like you're just catching bugs and you've got to kill them because they'd eat all your crops otherwise, and you're like, fuck it, might as well turn these into snacks. I'd eat those. So I think I could stick that in the middle. I do not like to eat a steak that is still bloody inside. Slight disagree. If it's still raw inside, then I will not eat it. But if it's got like a little bit, like if it's a little bloody, because that just didn't like cook off, but it is like, you know, raw. But it's not raw. I'll eat it. I would not eat avocado pulp that has turned slightly brown. I'm just not a huge fan of avocados. That's why I wouldn't do that, but... I never or rarely accept food from strangers. I think I've told this story before, but there was a kid in my high school who I was sitting in the library talking to some friends, and he came by and started offering nightshade tea to everyone. And he made sure to specify that it wasn't the poisonous kind, which I'd have to hope so. And one of my friends drank some and didn't die, so it turns out it wasn't the poisonous kind, but... I was like, not a chance. Not a chance. It is disgusting to eat a banana that has black spots? No, I just talked about that one. Find it gross to eat hard cheese from which mold has been cut off? Nope. As long as the mold has been cut off of a hard cheese, that's fine. Soft cheese? No. It is totally fine if my friends or acquaintances have touched my food. Friends, yes. Acquaintances, no. I do not eat cucumbers that have ripened so much they can be bent. I don't know if you have to move that to keep in the center. I prefer not to. They tend to be a little too bitter for my taste. But sometimes I'll throw like some cucumber slices in like a stir fry, and if they're a little bendy, that's fine. I eat blue cheese as part of my diet when I served it. Oh, I had a friend in college for the 2 years that I went. Loved blue cheese. She loved blue cheese. She had like a little mini fridge in her dorm room. It was always blue cheese in that, and that stuff is nasty. Disgusting. That is mold. You ain't cutting that mold out. I don't know if it's actually mold, to be fair, but it gives me the same vibes. I would lose my appetite if I found a little snail in my salad. Yep. A little bit. Snail's a little slimy. I don't like slimy. It is sickening to eat bread, which mold has been cut away. I'm going to give that a slight yes. It's not sickening, but it is gross. Breads are another soft food. I do not eat fruits, such as peaches or apples that have marks or stains on their peels. No. If it's like oil stains, maybe not, but even that you could probably wash off. It is nauseating to have a whole fish, including its head, served to me on a plate. I do not like that. I do not like that. Here we go. Food disgust is average, 41%. Yeah, fruits, that's unsurprising. Yeah, big on molds, big on hygiene. medium on animal flesh. That one's actually a little surprising to me, but I guess that is the thing that, like, I don't really like the animal flesh too much. Unsurprising to be low on fish and vegetables. Human contaminants. I feel like this one should be split into stranger and friend contaminants. I feel like stranger will be way higher. But that's very understandable. This is the one that I just threw on at the end. There's a non-zero chance this one doesn't make it into the video, but, you know, turns out, who could have seen that coming? I don't think that 51% on this one translates to 161 on this, but I'm going to be honest, on this one, here's your closing remarks. On this one, I felt like I was outsmarting the test, which is probably not something you should be doing with these tests, but sometimes I was like, oh, that's the autistic answer. I'm not going to click on that. Why? And it's not because I'm like, oh, I don't want them to call me autistic. It's because I was like, I want to trick the test, I guess. Anyway, turns out that might be worth looking into. Turns out my language is decent, I think. Numbers add up to each other. Social relatedness, that's unsurprising. That's my big, I mean, that's half my score. Who knows, maybe I'll do some of these other ones. Oops, go a little too far. But I'll find a way to outro this video. Maybe I just did. Ooh. Why did I do ghost noises? Why did I... Bye.